So first and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here. This is a closed kind of a town hall environment with all of the members of the new SoundWave software. We're going to be going over an AMA on product training and just basically some deep dive discussions on how to best utilize the tool set. And essentially, you know, I just need you guys to give me a Y in the chat box that you guys agree to this disclaimer. We're all adults here. We're all professionals, hopefully. Just do me a favor and just let me know if the disclaimer is fine by everybody here. You understand, I can't guarantee you any results on anything we build, but we can die trying, right? So that's the goal. So, all right, we got that out of the way. I've got kind of a mini agenda here, and I just want to kind of touch base on why. You know, first and foremost, if anybody in here needs any assistance on installation, or if you still don't know what everything is, I would assume that the best things you need to do here is you need to install the software if you haven't done so already. 2 is you need to read the user doc. Like, you have to read the user documentation. If you don't read the user documentation, you won't understand some of the stuff, okay? And C, you know, we can ultimately, we're going to go over deep dive concepts today. And we're not going to spend too much time on every given one because they're pretty straightforward, but I do want to cover some details. I need to cover some information that I think is important. So the first thing I want to make sure everybody understands is we're gonna walk through the layouts. There's a couple of really good trades that just happened right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the overall UI and what it's designed to do, okay? So I think it's just really important that everybody kind of doesn't get confused on this, is that this is not Tick Strike. This is not Soundbox or Squawk Box, or this is our attempt to take audio order flow and merge it with both, essentially both the audio aspect of the tape and then the visual confirmation of proving that, hey, this has actually got some merit. This first box up here is the audio box, okay? And the audio box is designed to basically explain when a whole lot of information is coming in to the candles from the time and sales. And then what we want to do is we want to hear it, right? So if we're hearing something, you got to turn it on. So if I'm going to hear it, I've got them all turned off by default. And this is the 30-second chart. So the reason I got it on the 30-second is a little less noisy. If I go to the 1-second feed here, okay, and I turn on this, we're going to hear some audio here, right? We're going to hear some audio here. We're going to hear that noise on the box when it happens. It may not happen for some time, but it may happen. And you know, if I turn the audio SoundWave files on and this information, depending on what market I've got loaded in here, right, will determine what I hear. Now, I'm going to turn this off for the sake of this because I don't really need it to go all crazy. Everybody's heard it. Everybody that's installed it, you all know what it sounds like, right? You all understand the sound of it. If I'm not mistaken, Jeff, they can change those sound files, yes? I want to make sure that...
Well, what you can do is you can change the volume, the loudness, depending on whether it's just slightly above the threshold versus, you know, much higher. There's like 3 different levels. Sure. So it's the volume that you can adjust, but the pitch is kind of coded into it's in the software.
Yeah. No sound for you. So if I come in here and I turn on these audio files, right? If I go in here and I'm on the 1-second feed, so it's going to be moving pretty fast here. Okay, we're going to turn it on. I've basically turned on the audio for all of the tickers coming in here. Okay, all of the tickers. So that basically anything that's coming in this box, anything that breaches these thresholds, okay, you're going to get a sound. You're going to start hearing things, right? Now, we're not talking strategy yet. We're not talking how and why and when and where and what and who and all that yet. We're just making sure you understand that when things move past the threshold, you're going to get sound. Okay. Now, when it comes to the thresholds, I think this is very, very important. First of all, I really, this is a mixed discussion, and I know Jeff and I spent actually days on it, days, literally days. Like the 1 second feeds. The 1 second feeds are as fast as the market gets. Like after that, you're into like milliseconds and nanoseconds, and like that's just, there isn't even a chart for that, right? Like if I'm not mistaken, I think the 1 second feed is the smallest time frame you can ever have on a trading platform. And versus a 1 tick feed, right? Maybe a 1 tick or a 2 tick bar would probably be the equivalent. However, okay, the concept of the 1 second feed is not about, well, I should trade it on the 1 second feed or I should not trade it on the 1 second feed, right? So there is the you start hearing sounds. I'm going to turn on the audio here, share sound. So when we start thinking about the concept, like there's two ways in which the software has been designed to be used: regular and flipped. Regular is what I've got over here on the left. Okay. And you'll see it says normal here. It says normal down here. I think it's important to understand that these are two separate indicators. If I right click my chart and I go in here, okay, and I right click it, I've got it SoundWave, which is the primary, and then I've got arc SoundWave here. Okay, I'm not sure, Jeff, if that's supposed to have the acronym in front of that SoundWave section.
Yeah,
Maybe
it should. We'll look into
we'll
that.
get it. Yeah.
Yep.
So the reason it's two is that it's not necessarily designed to be used together. You don't need to use this and this together. You do not need this box here, okay, and this signal. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, the concept of SoundWave is to take audio and visual and merge them, meaning you can do as you choose to. Some people don't want the visuals. Like literally some people are trading whatever they trade, and they just want this box up here signaling when buy and sell order flows coming in at aggressive levels, at aggressive information points, right? Sometimes you're trading on bigger time frames and you just want to have that confirmation of order flow giving you confirmation. That's fine. That's the audio side of it. Okay, I'm going to get you guys to mute your mics here. There you go. And then the other side is that the rest of the traders in here is they're like, well, I want to visualize it. Like I want to see it. I want to see what's going on with this information, right? I want to actually see, is there anything happening in here that is, very powerful, and and how do I quantify that information? Okay. So in order for us to understand quantifying information, you can see that like the exact same thing happened here, but the difference is that this is showing pink, which is the sell side, but yet this is showing green, which is the buy side. How is that possible? Well, it's because we flip the tape. What it means is if you're a momentum trader and you're trying to capture momentum moves, trend trades, I don't mean pullbacks to the tick. Like you might get a pullback, you might get a momentum signal here, you might get a momentum signal here to go long, and then it just pulls back slightly and it just keeps going. Momentum signals are going to happen wherever they happen. The market doesn't go like this. The market does this sometimes, and this sometimes. And you might get the momentum signal here or here or here, but the market just keeps going up. Buy order flow is buy order flow. It's not about timing the specific bar. You need to understand that it really is dependent on the time frame that you're looking at and understanding how you want to trade this. This is not meant to be follow every signal. This is not meant to be every time the order flow flashes massive orders that you should be entering a trade at that exact time, but it can be used for that. I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of traders are going to find clarity today in this AMA, is that the use case and the strategy implementation, it really depends on the outlook of the time frame, the strategy use, and how to use it with your preferred method. Okay. So I like to show visuals on a 1 second because I get the most data as quick as possible. However, if I'm trading it for myself, or if I was to sit down with a trader and say, well, how do you want to use the software? And if you say, well, I just want it to be an audio tool, I have my own indicators, I have my own systems, then the first thing I would be doing is I would be then turning off all the visual cues, but I would still want to know what my threshold should be. I would still want to really fine tune my thresholds. If I was trying to trade it as a signal generation system, I would then want to think, okay, well, as a signal timing tool, I'm probably not going to want to do it on anything greater than a 1 minute chart. Or even if I am going up to, say, a 3 minute or even a 5 minute, you need to understand that that is a very, very large time frame compared to time and sales coming into the tape in the real time. Right? One candle could go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down inside of one bar on the time and sale. You can get a whole lot of information and order flow in that. So how would we go about thinking about adjusting the thresholds, right? And I this is no specific order, because I think adjusting the thresholds will help trigger just information for everybody's use case. So Jeff, I give you permission to correct me if I make a mistake on some of this stuff, because I know you spent a lot more time in this than I did, but I'm just going to use the reversals for a second, okay? So as I zoom in here for a second, this is a 200 period average of the tape, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Times a multiplier, yes.
Times the multiplier. So if I double click on this for a second, we're going to go in here. So it says threshold moving bars, period in bars, 200 bars, right?
Right.
And then what we're doing is we're looking over 3 second lookbacks. So even though I have it on a 1 second feed, I'm still feeding it on a 3 second feed. It's kind of like the sweet spot. Jeff and Sergio and the team and I kind of found that out. And here's the thing, right? The sensitivity factor is the threshold. But if you change these information points, it's going to change everything inside of the data. So let me explain this. If I change the thresholds to, let's say, a 60 or an 80, it's going to require this. It's going to require a really big spike. This probably won't be there, right? Like this may not even be there. This would be there because it's a really big spike. So the thresholds, the sensitivity factor is how big of a restriction do you want to put on those thresholds? But if I want to make it looser, and if you take a look at, the way that this is going over the last 200 bars, there was several spikes in here that are not being picked up. If you think about like this spike here, or this spike here, or even some of these spikes in here. So, one of the things you may want to do, and this is something that I think a lot of traders will have fun doing on their own time, is, you can ultimately go in and just see, like, where is the lion's share of the peaks, right? Like the lion's share of the peaks is like the average. If you think about, looking at the spikes here, the spikes here, and the spikes here, and the spikes, like you can see a threshold of confluence across here. You see this? And so one of the things you may want to do when testing on different timeframes or different just sensitivity settings with what you can do, you can actually go in and adjust the threshold and drive this down to, say, maybe 100. And it's going to make it more responsive. You see that? If I drive this down to, say, 50.
Can I add something, Sean?
Yeah, you can add something.
So the sensitivity is what raises or lowers that threshold, that yellow threshold. A 0,
excuse me,
a 0 for sensitivity means it's actually equal to that moving average, that 200 period average.
Amazing. So
and
let's
100 say 100 is the max, and it raises it up a lot. So that's how to think about it.
So, okay, so let's simplify this down a little bit. Okay. if I want to drop that down, if I bring this down to, let's say 100, right, and I put this at like 100, they should be equal if I'm not mistaken. Maybe that's a different way of looking at it. But let me ask you, Jeff. Okay, let me ask you. If I want to bring this down, okay, if I want to bring that yellow line down, and I want to basically make it so that I have picking up all of this in the signals, if I choose to, what would be the best way for us to explain this so that they could basically easily tweak that?
Make the sensitivity 0 or something close to 0.
Perfect. So if you drop the thresholds, let's say down to 20, it's going to basically make that less restrictive.
Correct.
Probably a better way of doing it. This way, there you go. It makes it a little bit easier to see. Yeah, dropping the sensitivity down, not changing the bars. This will change the look back in which it's using to collect the data, but this is going to basically give you the ability for it to pick up more of the peaks. Does that make sense? I think that's probably the easier way. I personally think, based on our testing, Jeff, like leaving this at 200 is probably a better bet because it's taking a bigger sample size of data. Right, having a bigger sample size of data gives you a little bit more confluence about, you're not just getting so much noise,
Yeah,
right? Especially
yeah,
if you're on,
right.
especially since you're not basically looking at big time frames, like 200 bars on a 1 second feed is probably not a lot of bars, right? Like it's
a little
not
over
a lot
3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So and so does everybody understand, by changing the sensitivity of this, I will then be able to find the common thread on this. Like you can do this on your own time. If you want to change this to 10, you can change it to 10, right? You can drop that sensitivity. Just know this, you're going to get a whole lot more information coming in here. Does everybody understand that? You're going to get a whole lot more going on that. Okay. So I think Jeff's got it at 40 just for the sake of it, but this can change literally everything that the software is doing. Like that sensitivity setting will alter everything that you see on the visual and the audio cue. So just remember, it's probably the most important setting in the tool. Hey, Jeff, I mean, if you were to like think about throttling the information, that
Absolutely.
sensitivity.
Yeah, the sensitivity is the most important because that's what gives you more or less signals.
Yeah, so Donald's asking a great question. So raising the sensitivity will stop that oversensitivity off the open? Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Does that make sense? So I just want to make sure that like this is like, how do we tweak the thresholds? Like this is really important because it's going to dictate the settings that you see. It's going to dictate the signals. If I go in here to the 30-second, okay, and I want to basically like you'll see here, right? Like I can see peaks here. I can see a pretty solid peak here that I didn't get a signal here. Okay. Right. I can see the thresholds here, like on a slightly bigger time frame. It's a little cleaner data point. This is my preference, and we'll get into preference and strategy after. But if I zoom this out a bit, okay, on a 30-second chart, I can just draw in here and I can pull in. I can see the peaks in here, right? And if I just take those peaks and I draw, if I take those peaks, you just find that confluence in here, right? Or, just these top ones here. Let's just do this like this. Okay. And I just come down, I draw some lines in here just to kind of show you some cues on the data, right? So like there's a peak. Okay. And here's stay in draw mode. So right here. So there's a peak. Oh, wrong one. Excuse me, guys. I'll just copy that over right here. And if I just grab another one here. Okay, so like if I'm using the reversal setting on this, okay, and we'll get into this in a second. If I'm using the reversal setting on these peaks and, I get a spike in here, or if I get, peaks that coming in, let's just use let me grab this one over here. It's easier to see. This one is a great example. If I'm coming in here like this and I changed my sensitivity setting down a bit, like to there, and I had a spike here and a spike here, these would increase the signals that I'm getting inside of the ratio of this visual output. Like these signals here, like this threshold inside the box, will be based on that. And so if you feel that, hey, like I want to get more signals in the order flow, or you just need to drop your sensitivity. So if I go in here and I drop that visually, remember, if you're going to drop the sensitivity, you need to drop the sensitivity in both, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff? You need to drop it in both. If you want the audio to mix with the visuals, you need to drop it in both indicators.
Correct.
So I'll give you an example. If I want the sensitivity to come here and to be less restrictive, then there's a sensitivity factor here that needs to be dropped. But then I also need to factor in that inside of the software, the sensitivity factor also needs to be dropped here. You need to drop them at the same time because one is not the same. They're both separate indicators, which means if you want them to work together, visual and audio, you need to do this. Now, for me, because I'm a visual guy and I like learning how to put a cue to the information, I would always optimize the visual before trusting the audio. Like why would I believe, just like, this is what I don't understand about just using audio tools, is like, why would I ever want to just rely on a bunch of noise when I can't actually validate that there's information to it? Right? Like if I'm going to sit there and trust, okay, we got a big bunch of flux of order flow coming in. I got a bunch of, a lot of big time in sales coming in. Do I want a bunch of false information, or do I really want to be able to validate that this has got merit? Right. And that's the whole point of me taking this down and being able to say, okay, well, if I was trading this and I had my sensitivity setting set a little bit less restrictive, I would have gotten order flow signals pumping on this pullback. And this is where we start getting into strategy. How would we use this in signal generation versus just information? Okay. Does everybody understand that? I'm trying to basically, like, if I want to go in here and I want to drop this sensitivity down, let's just drop it down. If I'm not, this is the SoundWave. This is the actual visual cue. Yeah. So let's go down sensitivity. This is the SoundWave engine. Which one is it for the visuals, Jeff? The SoundWave or the SoundWave engine?
The engine is a sum panel.
Okay, perfect. So then let's go in here. Let's go sensitivity factor up here. Let's just drop this down to like 30 and let's just see if it picks it up. I'll just see here for a second. Yeah. You see what it did there? It picked it up on 30. Now, I wouldn't just sit there and say, well, let's use 30. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that 30 is the right setting for the NQ. I'm sitting here saying that if I'm getting ready to trade reversals and I want to make sure that I can validate the information from the reversal side, right? Like, take a look at these reversals here for a second. Like, if I'm going to trade a reversal, like, did that work well? Did this come in here and give me a reversal? Did this come and give me a reversal? Did this come and give me a reversal? Did this reversal kind of give me a trade? Like, if I'm going to actually listen to the data and actually trust it without having visuals on my chart, like if I'm not using the visuals at all and I just want the data, then I'm going to start with the visuals to make sure that I set the sensitivity properly. And that's just my preference. Now, Jeff might come in here and Jim might come in here and say, well, what about this? And what about that? We all have our different ways of looking at it. But the way I envisioned the architecture around the software for this was, so many traders are using products that just provide noise. And my argument to that was, well, how do I know how to set the settings? How do I know what to throttle the settings at? I don't. It's like a black box. I'm completely blinded by that. Does that make sense, guys? Does everybody understand that? I want to make sure that you can understand the relativeness to this information. Now, if I'm using a 1 second, yeah, so Steve says he just likes the visuals, no audio. Then you can literally just turn the sound off or don't even have it on here. Like, you don't even need to have this box up here. Okay. So just to understand that. Now let's go into the second feed for a second. Okay. Like, let's go into the actual second feeds here. So this is a 1 second chart, right? And, if you think about like the 1 second can get pretty freaking noisy, right? It can get pretty noisy, but you can see some confirmation points. Like you can really see on the 1 second feed, like some significant confirmation here of like this, some really big peaks in here. This is not even really big. I would say that that's not really big. So and so my mindset goes as to like, look at the data before I start trying to trade it, because I don't know if you want to use this on crude oil. Like, I don't even have crude oil on here. So like what I'm setting this to wouldn't probably work for crude oil. right? Like, take a look. We're getting spikes here, but take a look at this spike. Like, it's just peanuts. It's a peanut spike. Maybe it works, but I don't know that yet. So one of the things I'd be doing is I would be literally looking at all of these points of reference and saying, okay, let's go back here and just start drawing lines across where, like, for me personally, I would want to just draw some lines. Where are these peaks touching? Where is the confluence touching? Are they, like, these are all spikes, major spikes, right? But I don't necessarily want all this stuff down here, right? So this would be, if you're going to trade it on like a 1 second feed, I would probably entertain increasing the thresholds. Like, I would actually increase it where I could actually ascertain being more restrictive. Okay, so sensitivity, let's just say go up to 60. And let's just put this at 60. And let's just see like how it changes the output on the cues. Now, I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. I'm saying I'm trying to get rid of the noise on the 1 second feed, right? What did I just do here? I just reduced the information, and holy shit, take a look at this for a second. Okay, now I'm not saying you should start trading the 1 second chart. But what I can tell you right now is the validity of the information just went way up. Like, the if you're going to trade on a small time frame and just have the audio box and you're not entering on the actual signals, I want you to just take a look at some of these reversal signals that just came in by me removing the noise on that. Like if you're thinking about reversals and you're sitting in a trade and you're long the market, and all of a sudden you start seeing red come in here, and you know that you set those thresholds to be very restrictive on the 1 second feed, this is a really good indication of like, okay, I know that I've really tweaked the software to be very accurate in its ability to tell me sellers are stepping in here. You don't necessarily need to enter on the signal. You can use it as exit management. You can use it as a guidepost. If the market's going down, and you know that you've got just the audio on a 1 second feed, and you see all of a sudden, boom, I get a big spike in buy volume coming in here on the NASDAQ, that's a pretty good indication that we're starting to put in a bottom. Like, you understand where I'm going with this? You don't necessarily need to time the market. If you want to, great. But it's good information to be able to understand. Like, if the market was going down, right, came back up, and then all of a sudden you start hearing brrr, brrr, coming in this, and you know that the settings are really restrictive. Well, then you know that order flow is not bullshit. You know that it's not just sitting there sending you a bunch of false data coming in on the time and sales because whatever, some big block just got traded off, right? And this is really powerful. Like, this is like really powerful data that you can actually use to your advantage. Like, take a look at this for a second. Like I'm not sitting here trying to wow you with, wow, look at that signal. Like, you bought a great tool and it's calling the tops and bottoms. I want you to understand that data is only valid because I chose it to be valid. I made the software say, only show me the strongest turning points, okay, in the market. You may be getting this on a 1 second feed. Let's just use this as an example, okay? This is a 1 second feed. Like, this could be just a really big bar on a 15-minute time frame, right? You don't know that. Like, this could be just whatever. Like, it could be just a flush off the, the going into lunchtime. But if you know that the market's going down, and then all of a sudden this starts going crazy up here inside of the buying, like, the buyers are stepping in, think of it as a freight train, and the market's going like this, and all of a sudden the data is saying, oh, market's putting in the brakes. Market's putting in the brakes. You don't need to enter on that. If you're a levels trader, or if you're some type of a trader that's looking at support, that is like a magnifying glass going in and saying, I'm able to anticipate what's likely to happen here because the data has been tweaked to only show me the most powerful information on the 1 second feed. This is why I wanted to let you know, like, this is leading information. Like, think about this. This is tweaked to 60% on the 1 second feed. So the thresholds are very restrictive, which means I get the signal here. That doesn't mean I need to take the entry on this. but it definitely tells me that there's the ability to say, okay, well, the anticipation next is this. Does everybody kind of understand why I'm showing it like this first? Because I don't trade the 1 second feed. But if I'm going to run it on a 1 second feed, I definitely don't want it going brr, 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 every time the market trades a tick. And you can't deny what you're seeing on the chart here. On a 1 second feed, that's some pretty powerful stopping power. I could increase this even more to say, like, I can maybe go to 75%. I don't know. I've never even tested this. Let's just take a look. Let's just see what it did. Like every time a signal came in, the market transitioned. The market transitioned. The market transitioned. The market transitioned. Not necessarily on the same bar, but every time that signal came in, we expect the market to do something. That's powerful information that I would arguably should be, very well received in terms of how you use it and how you want it to be, reflective on, your trading app. Now, I think this is where a lot of traders would get confused as to, well, should I set the 1 second feed up and enter on that, or should I set the signals up to trade larger time frames? It's really hard for me to answer that because the software is designed to do both. The software was designed not just for a signal generation tool, it was designed to throttle the information properly. Let's give a second here. So I just gonna leave it like this for a second. Let's just kind of go over to the momentum for a second. Okay. I really spend a lot of time on the reversals, more so than the momentum. And I'll explain why. Because I've never really been a momentum trader. I know some guys in here that are going to really love the momentum side. Let's go to the momentum side for a second. And if you think about this for a second, like I need the momentum to be used in areas where momentum makes sense. Like if you think about momentum on the open, let's just go back to the open for a second where it gets pretty crazy, right? This is market open. This is all market open. This is market open. Okay. So if I was to change the momentum and I just look at the peaks in here, you can see this is all market open. Like this gets crazy in here on market open, right? But if you wanted to, okay, like if you were going to trade momentum, I would arguably think the same thing holds true. Like, do you really want to get a bunch of freaking signals coming through all the time? And do you really want to treat the momentum off the open as the same as you want to treat the momentum on regular trading hours? That's the difference. So Jeff and I always talked about like the best way to understand the momentum side of it is you can't treat this trading climate the same as this because they're two separate times. News, like you can see, these are news spikes, right? Like these are times when the news picks up, right? Whenever you have news in the information. So what I would do is I would actually arguably look at the highest trading times and I would try to look for thresholds. Like if I'm going to trade, think about when would momentum be its most powerful? Like when is the market likely to truly pick up steam? Pre and post market open, right? As well as pre and post news. Everybody thinks that trading news is bad. Not if you're a momentum trader, not if you're a velocity trader. If you're trying to pick up movement and you're trying to pick up like surges in the market, I know some of the most profitable traders trade those times because their strategy was designed for those times. Right? It's not about like, oh, well, you shouldn't trade the news. I know guys, that's all they trade. And they make a killing because their systems are designed for that volatility. So it's not about, well, I shouldn't trade volatility. What I would do in this environment was I would look at the thresholds in here and I would say, okay, well, clearly I want my momentum thresholds to be set. So I'm picking up this. Maybe it's too restrictive right now. Maybe the momentum is not giving me the information I need post market open, right? So if I drop this down a little bit, this settings right now are set. Maybe I need to put it to 30 for whatever reason. It's being less restrictive on momentum because maybe I'm missing some of the trades in the moves, right? This is something that you'll be able to come in and actually dictate your strategy around deciding what time frame you want that momentum to be picked up on, right? Now you're seeing these are entries. Now you'll see here, you get an entry and then it pulls back, but then it continues. You get an entry and it pulls back and then it continues. Jeff and I were talking a lot about like, when do you want to use momentum? And after every time we see a momentum push, I'm just going to put this to say 30 for a second. Every time we do a momentum push, almost always, you get some form of a pullback and then it kicks in. So it's almost like every time you get a surge of momentum, the market pulls back, primes the pump, and then kicks off. Every time the market gives momentum, the market pulls back and then kicks off. Now, this is a 1 second feed. This is not a big move in a regular 1 minute chart. So this is why I'm saying, like, looking at the data, right? Like almost always I get a momentum trade. You know, the market gives me momentum. Look at this. The market gives me momentum, pulls back, and then kicks off, because momentums are breakouts. And this is why I don't really spend a lot of time myself on it, because I've never been a breakout trader. But if I get a momentum surge, most likely this is the market is hitting the stops, pushing through the orders, but then the market's got to prime the pump before the trend kicks in. So I would edge you on a word of caution that if you're going to trade the momentum settings under the normal tape environment, I've seen this a lot with Tick Strike. Love the product. I have it on my computer. Like, I know the owners. Like, there's nothing bad about the product. But the problem is that I would never be able to ascertain if the information coming in into the visuals or to the audio was anything of merit. So I can see now, I can quantify that instead of me getting excited, if I'm in a momentum environment and I start seeing the spikes and I know the market's pumping, I know based off of my visual back testing that almost every time I get a momentum surge, the market pulls back. So I would actually be more inclined to trade the pullbacks after the momentum surge comes in on the tape. For me, this is what I'm seeing as an architect. Heck, what do I know? I just work with the guys that build it. But this is what I'm telling you, is that every time I see a momentum surge, take a look, I get a momentum surge, the market pulls back here before it pumps again. The market pulls back and then it kicks back again, right? This one is the end of the trend. But it's a 1 second feed. It's too noisy for me to want to trade this. But it's a good indication that, you know, when you're trading, one of the things that I look at with momentum signals as well is if I'm making higher highs in price on that surge and the buy volume was actually bigger on both the higher highs and the higher, then I know the impact. This tells me that the highs are getting higher with higher volume impact. That to me tells me that the momentum is priming a pump. And this is something that if you're trading the normal settings, I would be looking at these signals and quantifying that. Does that make sense here, guys? Okay. Now, it all boils down to, like, take a look at this. I guarantee if I'm looking at both these charts side by side, I'm getting long signals here. At the same time, I'm getting short signals. This is what confuses everybody. So, well, which one do I use? Wait a second. It really depends on, are you trading reversals or are you trading trends? How many of you guys are reversal traders? Type an R in the chat box. Or a yes. R or a yes. Yeah. R or yes. Okay. How many of you guys are breakout traders, momentum traders, right? You like to take moves in the trend, right? Some of you are both. So here's the thing, right? The way I would go about this, and it really just boils down to this. And I'm going to give you kind of like a strategy cheat sheet, right? Layman's terms. Real simple. 1, reversal. Reversals can be traded either with an A at an AOI, an area of interest, right? Or B on bar signals using a slightly larger time frame. Okay. Excuse me. Now, so for momentum, you're going to be doing it at high volatility times only. B, you need to tweak the sensitivity. I would also say you should tweak the sensitivity here as well. Sensitivity. Okay. You need to tweak the sensitivity to only extremes. And you may need to tweak the sensitivity to match the follow through on high volume times. And you can't treat reversals the same as momentum. So don't try to make momentum. Don't try to use the software the same. They're not the same. How you trade reversals using SoundWave will be completely different than how you trade momentum. So my encouragement to you is you need to pick your strategy focus first before you create a template or a settings for your indicator. Does that make sense, everybody? We'll make sure that I'm just going through this in a step-by-step fashion. It's being recorded, so if you miss something, don't worry, we can go back and watch it. Okay. So for the sake of me, yeah, I'm going to do that now. So here, for the sake of interest, how many of you guys prefer me to focus on the reversals? I think the majority of you are trading reversals. Give me a yes that the reversals is kind of like the primary. You're more looking at timing the entries, right? You want to, momentum traders are one there. I would say the majority are looking at reversals first. So for the sake of this AMA, I really want to focus on what A, I have the most experience on, and B, what I think the majority of you guys are more interested in learning. Okay. So we're going to go into the reversal side. I'm going to just turn off all the sound on this because I don't need any noise. And I'm going to go in here, and I'm not going to look at Renkos. We're not going to look at all that yet. I'm just going to basically first look at the reversal side. So the second thing is you need to pick a base chart. Like if you're not trading a signal, okay, if you're not trading a signal, right, then you may, like, let's do this. Let's tweak the 1 second first. And I'm going to duplicate this into a new window. So duplicate a new window. Give me 1 second here, guys. We're going to create a couple things, and I'll share this workspace with everybody so that nobody has to do that. Okay. So I'm going to just basically create, these are going to be the 1 second feeds. I'm going to rename this. This will be the flipped MNQ 1 second. Okay. So we're going to do this, the flipped MNQ 1 second. Okay. So I know that I've got the 1 second feed on the MNQ. Okay. But if I want to go and I want to duplicate this into a new tab, let's say I want to run it on the SMP. Okay. Well, I got to change the base chart to the MES because the MES may show me slightly different data that I may want to use this. And now you're seeing visuals on the MES. So let's wait for it to kick in. Now these are visuals on the MES. So you can see here that if I'm trading the MNQ versus the MAS on a 1 second feed, the bars look different, the signals are going to look different. So on the MNQ, it's going to look a little bit different than, say, the MES, right? If I'm trading the duplicate a new tab and I want to trade the Russell, the RTY, right? You know, let's just do the M2K. Let's just do the micros. M2K. Yeah, we're going to get to that next, Rob. You're answering the next question of the demo. So I'm just going to show you that. Like, take a look at the spottiness of this, right? Like you can see that the 1 second is still spotty, but that doesn't mean the data is not valid. So remember that you may not be entering on this, but if you're using the 1 second as a visual, like, hey, wake the frick up, man. Like, shit just hit the fan on the buyers. Boom. Buyers, boom. Sellers, boom. Like, you can't deny those pullbacks and those ups and downs in a smaller time frame, but you still want to go in and take a look at the data. right? Like you need to go in and take a look at the peaks, the peaks, the peaks. And I think we're really on to a good setting. I really think that we kind of stumbled onto a group mulligan. How many of you guys like mulligans? We'll take them when we get them, right? 75% seems to be a pretty sexy threshold for starter point on the 1 second feed. And it really removes the noise on the 1 second feed for timing those reversals. Like you can see right now, like you might get a few weird ones, but the majority is going to be, and it may be different for each market. Like we don't know. There's the flipped M&Q. Let's rename this to the MES. Okay, and let's go here. This is the flipped RTY or M2K. Okay. So I'm just creating a couple just for the sake of it, just to show you. So this is going to be like the flipped 1 second feeds. And let's go in here and turn on all the settings. So those are all turned on. Okay, perfect. I'm just letting you know that those are all set like that. So I'm gonna just do this just for the sake of the demo. We're gonna move these down, keep them super super clean. So this is gonna be like the 1 second feeds. Okay. So we've got 1 second running on the top left here with a visual and a cue. I've got it on the NASDAQ because the NASDAQ's like, you know, probably, I would say the NASDAQ is sexy when it comes to this. The bars are a little bit cleaner, right? They're a little bit cleaner and these types of things. Now let's go in here and just flip the tape on the 30 second, duplicate a new window, because I really want to show the difference between using it as an audio cue on, let's say, really high thresholds versus actually using it as a signal generator, right? Like if I go down here and I just draw this down, like some of you want to use this to literally enter on the trades. How many of you guys are looking at that as not just an audio cue, but ultimately also as a signal system? Anybody here buy it for the purpose of that? So before we do anything on this, my mindset is still of the same. I want to really seek outside the noise. Now, Jeff, I'm going to need your help here to kind of explain a few things in that, you know, when we look at the details here, okay, inside of the way that this is operating, okay, you need to remember that just because you change to a 30-second or a 1 minute chart, the signals are not necessarily being driven from that time frame, right, Jeff?
Right. So what we're measuring is, you know, it's like a volume per unit of time. So the order flow volume per 3 seconds or five, you decide to look back. So whatever time period you define. So let's say you pick 3 second look back. So in real time, the sound box up at the top is showing you the 3 second look back on the flow. But on the sub panel, that's, you know, on the current bar, the histogram is going up and down based on what that 3 second is doing, but it freezes in time at the end of you have that on a 30-second chart. So at the end of that 30 seconds is when it freezes that histogram, and then it starts a new histogram. So when you're looking back in history, all those histograms are telling you what it was, what the 3 second look back was at the end of each 30-second period. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take Jeff's explanation and just kind of explain it in a visual way so that you guys can see this. Watch, let me just show you this and I'll explain this. This is the signal on the 1 second. You can see that it's just a little teeny freaking blip here on the 30 second. It's fast. Like the market's moving freaking fast here, right? So if I'm sitting here thinking that this is a 1 second, if I wanted that to be here at that exact same time, okay, then I would need to go in and set my settings the exact same infrastructure. Even though I'm looking at a 30-second, I'm going to set this to a 3 second feed because that's what this is on. The other chart was, okay. And then if I want to go in here and I set the sensitivity to, where is it here? The sensitivity. That's the down below. Let's set this to 75. And then I go down here and I set this to 3. This is the 3, and then I go down here to sensitivity is 75. Now all my signals should by definition be the exact same, but definitely displayed. Okay, in here, let me just double check here. Is that accurate, Jeff? Did I make the mistake on that? This is a 30.
So the real trick here is that when you have the bars at a 30-second time frame, but you have the look back in the order flow measure at 3 seconds, then we're only capturing what at the end of each 30-second bar,
At the
we're
end,
only capturing what it was for the
the
last 3
last
seconds of
3
that 30
seconds.
seconds.
Exactly.
And so if we put it at a 30-second look back, then it's sort of averaging it over that 30-second time. So
So let me kind of take what he said and kind of explain. The reason why we're not getting a signal here, even though it was coming in on a 1 second, and I set the settings, is because the way that time and the flow of order flow come in, it would have had to happen right at the end of the close of that bar for that signal to actually been true, which is why I don't do this. This is why I actually have it set up in 2 different ways. And this is exactly why Jeff and I spent so much time on understanding the best way to flow this, because I can easily have the 1 second as my cue at all times, knowing that, hey, I'm expecting to get some form of a pullback here, or I'm expecting to get some form of a something here, right? But if I'm literally trying to trade this on like a 30-second or like a timing chart, or if I'm actually using it as a signal system, right? Like, I don't need all this noise. That's crazy. So what I was doing, and this is something up for experiment with you guys, is I will go in here and actually put the time frame to be the same as my 30-second chart. Now that's kind of restrictive. Okay, that is restrictive. So I'm just going to go in here and set this back here for a second. Okay. And now I'm going to go and change the thresholds back to 40 and basically change this back to 40 because I had it at 40 originally. And we're going to hit this. Now what this is saying is that these signals are happening on the bar because this needs to happen for 30 seconds, or the average of the 30 seconds happened at the close of the bar, right? Which is, you get more impact from the tape coming in here, which is why that if I'm going to trade this on a minute chart, like if I put this to a minute chart, or if I put this to a 30-second chart, right? I'm still going to want to run around like a 30-second feed inside the tape, just mainly due to the fact that I need something of stronger merit for me to want to buy and have time to place my orders. I know a lot of scalpers that'll just wait. And as soon as they see that, like, take a look at this. Like, there's a signal here on the 1 second feed, but I didn't get a signal on the 30-second feed. Now, the question is, well, which one do you want? I can't tell you that answer. Like, I can't tell you that you should be trading on the 1 second and just, if you get a 1 second data feed coming in like this, the expectation is this. We know this. But if you're getting an actual signal on a 30-second bar, that's a seriously bigger time frame. That's 30x the 1 second feed. So this is like scalping, and this would be like day trading. I think that's like this is like really good scalping, and this is like clean day trading. I personally wouldn't want to go over a 30-second myself personally. You say, well, wow, that's small time frame. No, it's really not. It's really not when you think about day trading on this and understanding the timing of it. If you think about this, this is a support level coming in here on a pullback, right? This is just a pullback. All they did was run the stops on that pullback. That's all that is. That's a stop run. If I'm looking at the trend, came down, put in support, pushed up, came back down, ran that stop, pulled in that liquidity. That's exactly what that trade was. So if you think about this reversal here, all they did was take the liquidity off that peak. That's all the market was doing, was taking that liquidity, absorbing it so that it could come back down into a support level, which gave the limit orders more prime pump to buy. That's all that we're doing, is understanding the flow of that absorption. But you say, okay, well, Sean, how do I enter these trades? Well, first of all, for me, it's really, I like the idea of not always entering on the signal bar. I don't need to enter on the signal bar because this could give me four red candles going up, and then it breaks down. In this example, the way that I would be trading signals, if I was to do a signal entry, I would literally be having a buy stop or an order, and I would trail the low. I would trail the low. As soon as it triggered the low, I would take the short. right there. That would be my entry, because I want to make sure that the absorption comes in, and then I would trail the lows as prices coming in. Sometimes it doesn't break the lows. Sometimes it just keeps going up, 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 and up, and an absorption trade doesn't become absorption. The market just keeps taking them for the ride. And then I would have never entered a trade. I've seen reversals do an absorption signal, and I'm sitting there with like a line, and I'm trailing price, and then all of a sudden the bars just keep getting higher and they don't break the lows. There's no trade. There's no need to enter that trade. That's why I'm using price as a cue on this. So let's continue down. Let's say I get an absorption trade like this. What if this keeps pumping down, keeps pumping down, keeps pumping down? Well, I don't even have an entry. I just wait for that absorption to kick in. That's what the market's telling me it's doing. And then I drag my buy stop order down. There's the first candle. I drag my buy stop order down. There's the entry. Now you could enter on a hotkey, you could enter on a chart trader, you could enter on a flag. I mean, you could do whatever you choose, but you can literally just set it up where you're using a chart trader, right? You can just set it up where if it's coming, all of a sudden, here's the next short. Let's wait for it. There's the short. So my order would first go here, because sometimes the next candle just breaks down. So my order is always going to be at the low of this or at the high of this until the next candle opens or closes. So what I'll do is I'll come in. There's the next candle. Then I'll just put my sell stop here. There's the entry, right? Came down. This one chewed up sideways for a bit. But the question is, it depends on how much you want out of every trade. Like, I don't know how many ticks you're trying to go for your strategy. Like, this is 30 to this one all the way down to 22. That's 8 points on the NASDAQ. Like, that's an 8-point trade right there. Boom. Does that make sense? To keep a look, let's keep going to the next trade signal. Wait for it. Right there. So let's say I get absorption coming in, right? I got an order pending up here to buy. Remember this, if the market's going down, I'm planning to buy for a reversal trader. If the market's going up, I'm planning to sell. So I know that if the market's pumping down and I'm scalping, like, honestly, you don't even need a lot of markets or a lot of time frames in here. You could literally just have it set up on one market if you're trying to scalp. And you can literally just sit there and wait for the market to start breaking down. And you know you've got the sensitivity settings set properly. You just wait. Your buy stop goes down. Boom. There's your long. I think this becomes very easy. If I go over to like the beginning part of the day, let's go take a look at some different times during the day. Like, this is market open. Okay. I'm not a big fan of market open, because market open for reversals is like, you got to give the market at least a few minutes, right? However, let's hold on a second here. If I know that I've got some big level of support, or let's say I've got like an area here, this is a big level of support in here, right? Or whatever. Let's say you've got a supply zone, or maybe this is an order block on a demand zone, or whatever you're using, right? The key here would be is that, let's say you let the market chew through all the noise, but if you know that like there's a demand zone down here, right? This would be where I would be relying on the 1 second feed to help me understand, are we getting any information in here? But then I'd also be relying on the fact that if I know that I've got a good level of support in here, then I'm going to take the entry. You'll see here how this one kept breaking down, never broke the highs on that signal. Then it came down, it broke the highs here. So this would be the entry here, right? And if I keep going down over here, like, take a look at this. Like, to me, the market's going down, right? And then the market comes down and pumps down in here like this. Well, this is all a level of support. Like, we've seen this. This is literally the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, the higher low retest on a reversal. Like, that is, if I'm coming down in the market and I'm doing this, this is exactly what this is showing us in a reversal pattern. So if I'm seeing that the buy absorption is coming down like this, my buy stop is right there at the high of that candle. There's the trade. Like, that's how I would be playing that signal on a, yeah. So Mary, you get so many signals. I don't trade reversals off market open. That's a negligent thing to do. I would let the market trade for 10, 15 minutes, and then I would get into normal trading because the market's calmed down. So like, you're going to find on a 30-second chart, you're not going to be at a loss for signals. So let's take a look here. Think about this for a second. The market's going down. I'm not looking to short. So even if I got an absorption signal here, it's absorbing in the pullback. This is kind of like a pullback that's absorbing at the highs, but I'm still not looking to short, right? Even though it worked. Now, here's a great example. If the market's coming up, right, into a level of resistance, now I'm going to start paying attention to the shorts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain something here. Take a look at how the signal never got triggered on the first one. There's no need to enter this one. There was no trigger. So if I've got a sell order, just sitting down here, a sell stop order, and I get a signal, I'm dragging it up. Never got filled. Just keep dragging it up. And I would arguably think that after a couple candles, if it doesn't trigger to the short, just you don't have a trade. Like just move your order out. It's still pumping. And then all of a sudden, okay, so we know there's more absorption coming here. So I drag my order back up, right? There's another trade. Drag my order back up. There's my entry. I'm not worrying about this being a green because I was already planning on taking the short in the resistance in the absorption. Okay, this is news. 6:30. I guarantee there was a news announcement at 9:30 this morning. Okay, so take a look here. Take a look. Buyers coming in. Triggers the long. Boom. Pushed all the way through, right? Now, I'm not saying you're going to take those entries like that, but this is an example of news. See the news coming in here? I don't like, oh, excuse me, that's market open. I was looking at 5:30. That's time off news. That's market open. I would not trade the open. That was my mistake, guys. I apologize for the timing. Yeah, I'm 3 hours different. So this is a news announcement this morning, and this is market open. So if I was to basically say, if I'm trading reversals, right, I would be trading in the quiet times. Why? You're trading a day trading time frame on a small enough chart, you're not going to be a loss for opportunity. Take a look here. This is 20 minutes off the open. How would we trade this long? That's the floor off the open. The market's putting in consolidation. They run the stops off the low from the open. That's a stop run. Where's the entry? Right there. Boom. It's a good trade. That's an amazing trade on a 30-second chart. Right here. You put your buy stop limit order there. You enter the trade. Boom. Now, let's talk about this. Market's going up. Right? In a downtrend. Market's going up into resistance. Could you be looking to sell this? Yes, you could be looking to sell this. Is there a reason to enter a trade yet? No, the order would go here. Look at this. You put the sell stop here. There's the entry. This one would have been a stop out. You would have got stopped here. You're going to get stopped. It's part of the trading business, right? Let's keep going. So here, you see this here? You get this sell signal here. I would want to wait for the market to kind of give me some indication. Like if you wanted to sell that, you could, right? There's the trigger, right? The thing for me is I don't like entering after multiple bars. And personally, between you and me, like if I'm going to sit there and trade something, I need a big spike to the upside. Like if I go back down here and I'm going to trade long. So if I go here and I'm spiking down, then I'm going to be interested in a long trade. To me, that's not a spiking up. Like I'm not like entering any new territory. Like this is sitting here in noise, right? I would really want to be spiking into new territory. Like up into here, do you see this? Like this is spiking into new territory. This is literally like, boom, right? Like this to me is spiking into new territory. And that's something to pay attention to ultimately at areas of interest as well, right? And you can see that this was a break to the upside. And then this trade never triggered a signal. This did. Okay. This did. This triggered here. So, and I'm not saying you want to enter on the 30-second chart. You don't need to trade the 30-second chart, right? You can do whatever you want with the signals. You can tweak the settings. Like I might even go in here, tweak the settings a little bit to like 80. This is the sensitivity factor. Let's put it into like, let's just do 60. Let's see if it opens up anything different. I've never even looked at this on 60 threshold. It might even be more restrictive. You might have way less signals. I don't know. Right? Take a look. This signal long was here. That signal short was there. Let's go back in here. Did we get any more signals on the sensitivity? That signal short was there. sensitivity might be too big, right? Like if you start seeing you're missing signals throughout the day, I'd be paying attention to the peaks and finding that sensitivity that allows me to capture reversals in areas of interest, right? And I would be looking for the signals to be in clearly defined levels of support or resistance, right? Not sitting in the middle of the noise. So I'm just letting you know, different ways in which you can tweak that setting. Okay, so you can put it at like 50, put it at like 50. Now, if anybody in here finds a better way to skin the cat on the minute charts, like if you start testing it on minute charts or if you start testing it on other time frames, please by all means send it into the discords, because I think everybody can benefit from it. If you find a really good setting on like a certain different time frame we haven't looked at, community is about sharing, right? You get what you give. And I guess for me, like it really just depends on what type of trader are you. Are you trying to scalp? Are you trying to day trade? Are you trying to use it as an audio cue, a visual cue? So stops, yeah. So well, it just depends on a 30-second. I would really want to use a tight stop. Like there's no sense on if it's going to work, it's going to work, and it's normally going to work with a good R multiple. So like for me, I would enter the break would be here, and my stop would go above the high of that. I would enter on the break, my stop would go above the high on that. Make sense? So here, a great example would be this. If I was entering this if I was trading this, I would enter as soon as I seen it break down, and I would just be out for a couple ticks. Like I really think that as a hyper scalper, like you can make a lot of money just entering and getting in and out on this. Like if you see this on the 30-second chart, like if you're looking for a point or 2 points, you can literally enter on these types of cues and get a point out of the market every time. Like I'm looking at the settings on the 30-second and take a look. Like they're right. Like you could enter short and you could have already taken, we'll wait and see how this unfolds, but we don't know. You don't know if you're gonna enter on the 30-second or the 1 second or it really depends on what you want, right? And if I'm looking at 30-second, like I'm not even getting a signal in here because my thresholds are too restrictive, right? So if I put it to 40, I may have got a signal there. And this is where like I want to be able to give you the crystal ball and tell you just set the settings to this. I don't know how you're trading, right? I really don't know how you're trading in terms of like the limit orders, or if you're entering at a, it's if you're entering a, if you're in an uptrend and the market's going into an uptrend, like think about this for a second. If you can see that the market's trending up to the upside, then I would be really more inclined to be more paying attention to, the longs. Like right now, I would be really, really anticipating the next long signal on the 1 second chart. That would be something that I'd be very interested in trading, because I know that the market's trending up. So if I can get a long signal, if you take a look at any of the long signals that came in here, they were really powerful, right? This one pushed up. This one pushed up. Look at that. Like any of the long signals were like, because the market's in an uptrend. Like take a look at the, let's just look at the uptrending on a slightly bigger time frame. Market's trending up. This is a 5,000 volume chart. It's equivalent to a 1 minute time frame, approximately. I think so, maybe a little bit bigger. So if the market's trending up on a higher time frame, then it's really easy for us to understand, okay, well, if I'm going to scalp signals, yeah, I could get some great shorts, but the longs are really looking sexy, right? Like the longs are really looking sexy here on the 30-second, as well as, off the open. This came down, never gave a signal. This signal never happened. So this is a great example of this signal worked really good from a long perspective, really good for a long trade right here. Okay. And if Jeff, do we have the ability to turn longs and shorts off? That's a good question.
No, we do not.
So that's something that maybe, would you guys like if we add that in there so that if your bias is to the long side, you're only seeing what you're looking at? Like we can add that if it's going to help visually, because sometimes it can be noisy if you see a sell signal or a buy signal. But if you're only looking to go long, right? Like it'd be nice to only just see what you want to trade, right? I mean, it's something we could easily do. Take a look at this. We never got a trigger here. There was never an order that triggered long here. This was just a missed absorption. But the next long that came in, this is right here. Big trade. And it's what fed the next big uptrend. Same thing here, big trade, fed the next uptrend. So you're getting really good absorption signals in the direction of the prevailing trend. Really sexy trades. Mary says, when is the algo released?
Oh my
yeah,
God.
everybody wants a SoundWave algo. We're going to take pre-bidding orders. Yeah, we're going to pre-sell it. Yeah, just like buying condominiums. Everybody's got to buy the pre-development, get a discount. Yeah. So did everybody learn a lot from this? Did you guys understand this? I really wanted to just kind of make this more strategy focused. I can basically put this workspace in, take a screenshot of this so you guys have it. Hopefully you found that valuable. And I've got to jump, guys, because I have another meeting here in 15 minutes. So I wanted to do an AMA and make sure that we covered all this stuff so you guys get the most out of it. But Jeff and I and the guys are always here. We'll put these, this workspace, I'll load this workspace in Discord into the indicators thread so everybody gets it. And yeah, we'll post the recording for everybody so you guys have it. Make sense? Yeah, if anybody needs any help, or if anybody finds some really sexy settings that you're like, whoa, like then basically, yeah, like share with the group, right? Share with the group. Everybody deserves it. And if you're using it on like Renko charts or anything of the nature, like all I did was just convert Renkos to like a 30-second Renko. And like I asked myself, like, how would I enter on a Renko chart? I don't really know. I think it'd be better on like, but take a look at this setting. Like I would, like, this is a short signal. This would be a quick short, but like I said, I'd be more interested in changing the thresholds. If you look at the Renko, this is really interesting. See, the Renkos provide less noise than the time. You can see the peaks a lot better with less noise. So like if I drop the settings down, if I went down to like say a 30, never tested this, guys, so just bear with me on this. I might be able to really see like a whole lot of better information in here. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, you can get better signals, and you can see the clarity of this. It just really depends on, are you going long or short, right? Like there's the long signal off the open this morning we were talking about, right? This was the same signal that happened on the Renko. The only difference is, where would I enter? I would enter on the reversal. If I got an absorption signal coming in, the first trade I would take would be on the reversal. That would be my entry. So if I was trading a Renko, that would be my entry on the flip. It's easier to see that. It's easy to see that. Like that was a massive trade, right? Like I said, today the bias was long, so I'd be looking at longs. So think of this one here would have been a stop out. I would be putting my entry right at the flip, and then this. But this right here, look at this trade. This is a sexy trade right here, right? Yeah, automation would probably be easier on Renko, but sometimes it's easier to test data. But if you take a look at the shorts, like, can't deny the shorts either, right? But I mean, I would be more inclined to trade the long if I was looking at trading the trend, right? It's just better, right? You sometimes get more trade signals on a time chart than you will on a Renko, but sometimes the Renko's cleaner. Renkos are great. It's just I never had the time to test Renkos, so I haven't really spent a lot of time testing it. Yeah. So give me a why that you like it. I mean, have you guys, first glances, you haven't had a chance to trade with it yet. You're just getting the tweak settings, but give me a yes that you guys you're happy with it. You see it. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some use, but Jeff and I and the team are here, and would love some comments in the Discord. Send a testimonial on Trustpilot, whatever you want to do. But we spend a lot of time with it, getting it and building this. Our team really loves the feedback, and I look forward to hearing about your guys' success with it and moving forward. If you need anything, just let us know. Jim and Jeff are always here, as well as myself. Yeah. All right, guys. Have a fantastic day, and hopefully enjoy the AMA. Yeah. Enjoy the product.